All right, so now we're on part 2 of lesson 44. First thing you need to do is put your heading, name, number, date, first and last in cursive. You want to get into the habit of writing your first and last name every time, because as you go on to the middle school and high school, it's very important you put both your first and last. And you want to put your heading on every paper. Be ashamed to do all this work, it get lost and not be able to be returned to you just because you didn't put on your name. So it's very important to be able to do that. Okay, remember to write the date that you are working on this, not necessarily the date I'm writing, unless they happen to be the same. And our subject is math. All right, so we're using our cubes annotation strategies to help us with these word problems. First two problems we're going to use models to help us solve, and then the last two we're going to use equations to help us solve. For Halloween, Lena received 7 4/8 pounds of candy. That's a lot. After a week, her family had eaten 3 6/8 pounds. So this is what she received. Don't really need to know that it's for Halloween. That's just extra information. How many pounds of candy does she have left? So we're trying to figure out how many are left. Do we know the total she had to begin with? Yes, you do. So when we know the total, we're either going to subtract or divide. We only have one amount we're taking away, so we're going to subtract. So here this represents 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 7 had to be broken up. So we have 7 and 4/8 became 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 actually became 6. Sorry, this is why you use pencil and not pen. Unfortunately, pencil is a little too light. And then here we have 1, 2, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 eighths. Where we take away 3 6/8. Well, if we take away 6/8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we're left with 6. And here, if we take 3 away, 1, 2, 3, we're left with 3. So they ate about half the candy because these amounts are the same. Now, this right here, those are even. So I could actually divide both of these by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So how much is left? Is 3 3/4 pounds. Lena has 3 3/4 pounds of candy left. All right, next problem. In 2 months, Gwen's class recycled 8 6/10 pounds of paper. If they recycled 5 4/10 pounds the first month, how much did they recycle the second month? So we want to know how much in that second month. Because they did 2 different months. We know the total amount that they recycled. So we're going to either subtract or divide, and we're only taking out one amount. So we're going to subtract. So here we have our 8 whole, and then 6/10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6/10. Now we could take away 1, 2, 3, 4. We didn't have to rename it like up here. So we're left with 2/10. And then the 8, take away 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're left with 1, 2, 3. Now these are both even. So a way to look at it is they both have that common factor of 2, or I could divide both by 2 if they're both even. And so they recycled 3 and 1/5. Gwen's class recycled 3 and 1/5 pounds of paper during the second month. Got to make sure our answer goes along with our question. All right, the next two are going to use equations to help us solve these problems. But we're still going to use cubes to help us annotate. The average height of boys in Jackie's class is 5 2/8 feet. The average height of girls in the same class is 5 3/8 feet. I have a problem here. This should not be a 2. This actually should be a 4. Can you fix that and change that into a 4, please? I corrected it on my answer key, but not on my original here. Sorry about that. So the height of boys is 5 4/8. The height of girls is 5 3/8. How much taller is an average boy than an average girl in the class? This is not for all of them. This is just for Jackie's class. So we now want to know how much taller. So the boy's height is 5 4/8. That should be 4/8. The girls are 5 3/8. But we don't know the difference. That's what we're trying to find. So to find our difference between the two heights, we subtract. So first we have to see, can we subtract the fractions? 4/8 take away 3/8. Well, 4 is greater than 3, so I can subtract without renaming. So I get 1/8. And then 5 take away 5, well, that's 0. So that just leaves 1/8. So that is our difference. And I can't simplify it. The only thing I can divide both of those by is 1. So it's in its simplest form or its lowest terms. The average boy is 1/8 feet taller than the average girl in the class. All right, our last problem here. Marissa and her mom ran the first 1 1/4 miles of a 2-mile trail. They got tired and walked the rest of the way. How far did they walk? So we want to know how far did they walk, because they walked the rest of the way. They ran the first part and walked the rest. Do we know the total amount of the trail? Yeah, it's 2 miles. Do we know how much they ran? Yep, 1 1/4. Do we know how much they walked? No, we do not. So we want to figure out how much they walked. So we have our total amount, take away how much they ran. I got a problem here. I don't have a fraction to subtract the fraction. So I need to rename this as 1 and 4/4, because that's a whole. So 1 whole plus 1 whole is 2. So I'm renaming it like this. So now I can subtract. 4/4 take away 1/4 is 3/4. And then 1 take away 1. Well, that's 0. So that's it. They walked 3/4 of a mile. So we got to answer our question now. Marissa and her mom walked 3/4 of a mile. All right, so that is using a model or equation to help solve word problems involving subtraction with fractions and mixed numbers. So you do need to do some more practice. Thank you for joining me.